So there you have it, folks. My Licorice is alive with Calling Dr. Funk by Vince Guaraldi. Now, some of you may know who Vince was. He famously composed the music to all those Peanut specials, with Charlie Brown. But in addition to that, Vince was a top-rate pianist in his own right, and he also wrote the hits Cast Your Fate to the Winds and the enchanting holiday tune Christmas Time Is Here. But for my money, Calling Dr. Funk is, I think, it's really a little Pink Panther-y 1960s era gem of a tune, and you can hear Vince play it on the definitive Vince Guaraldi. And if you don't have that album, folks, go out and get it. Okay, so welcome friends, subscribers, and countrymen to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, not coming to you from my movie studio apartment in the Wood of the Holly under the sign, but rather in a Tucson hotel room overlooking the Arizona desert, where yesterday afternoon I had a chance and happy encounter with a Mojave greenback rattlesnake. But be that as it may, I'm still doing my best to break it down jazz-wise, joke-wise, and otherwise as I explore the netherworld of my brain and hopefully, just maybe, shed a little light into yours. And this hopeful little thought has just taken residence in my brain. Maybe, after all, there is a kind of fairness on this earth. Maybe good actually does triumph over evil. Maybe the long arc of history does indeed bend ever so incrementally towards justice. Maybe karma is real. Maybe fate is not as fickle as we thought. And maybe, just maybe, Payback really is a motherfucker. And so, as I watch the PVP, and by that I mean Putin's vice president, as he tweets madly from his D.C. bunker, I'm reminded of those old World War II black and white documentaries where you saw those giant B-17 bombers, those propellered behemoths of old lumbering across the European sky, when suddenly black smoke trails off one engine, then flames erupt in the cockpit. The plane somehow manages a steady glide path until a wing breaks off, and the steely fingers of gravity extend their grip over the fuselage, and the bomber begins its fiery descent to Earth. At that moment, a few black dots leap from a side door, and they tumble ass over tea kettle back to Earth. Their parachutes open, and, lucky souls that they are, they descend slowly into the waiting arms of German soldiers. But for that pilot, trapped in the burning aluminum death chamber, his fate is sealed. And so it seems is the fate of the billionaire brat boy. By that I mean the predator-in-chief. His airy days of light and bombast are numbered. Now, maybe this is just wistful and wishful thinking on my part. Maybe I'm naive. Perhaps I'm not seeing the picture clearly. But right now, the PVP, he looks doomed. If I were him, and I'm glad I'm not, I'd buy a one-way ticket to Moscow. I know that guy, what's his name? The one Oliver Stone made a movie about. Oh, yeah, Edward Snowden. I heard he's Airbnb-ing an extra room with a great view of the Kremlin. The place comes with all the amenities, including 24-hour video surveillance of the tenant. I'm sure the brat boy could stay there with all the Russian pole dancers and golden showers his heart desires, because, like it or not, the Schiff Pelosi show is going off gangbusters. The dynamic duo of Nancy and Adam have the predator-in-chief in their sights. Now, a little background. Adam is a nice Jewish boy from the Valley who went to Harvard and Stanford. He became a lawyer, then scored a prime gig as a federal prosecutor in downtown La La Land. Wow, talk about making your parents happy. And then, for some reason, Adam, like so many nice Jewish boys from the Valley, got bewitched by the bitch goddess that is Hollywood and was ready to ditch the comfy confines of the law to become a screenwriter. He wanted to write legal thrillers like The Verdict, but like so many others, myself included, the bitch goddess turned its back on the fledgling scriptwriter, and now, as fate would have it, Adam has the lead role in the biggest legal thriller of them all. Anyway, young Adam got frustrated and left Hollywood for politics because, well, let's be honest, Hollywood was way too political. Too much ass-kicking, too much begging for money, too little chance for upward mobility based on, merit. Damn, maybe I should do what Adam did. Maybe I should run for Congress. But then I'd have to run against Adam because I live in his district and he's got that seat locked till he decides to be president or senator or a screenwriter again. Besides, I like the little pencil neck geek. I get his emails. I've given him money. I even met him way back when he was running for the state legislators. So, okay, folks, the suspense is over. Here is my official announcement. After considerable thought, after consultations with my imaginary wife and my non-existent kids, I am officially terminating my non-existent campaign for the U.S. Congress. So there, the suspense is over. You heard it first right here from the horse's ass. Mouth. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, Adam's other half. And by that, I don't mean his wife. I mean Nancy. Now, Nancy was a nice Catholic girl from Baltimore. Her daddy was even mayor of Baltimore. Now, let me say this. You don't get to be mayor of Baltimore without knowing how to take a punch. And more importantly, you don't get to be mayor of Baltimore unless you learn how to throw a few, preferably with brass knuckles. And as a young girl, Nancy learned these lessons from her daddy. But being a nice Catholic girl, Nancy married and migrated to San Francisco and reinvented herself as a housewife and supermom before, after many years, Nancy made it to Congress, where she reclaimed her rightful identity as a brass-knuckle counterpuncher and political mover and shaker. And guess what? The PVP is now very nervous, and he is shaking in his boots. I'd bet dollars to donuts, dingbats to doofuses, or dipshits to deadbeats that this dude's days are numbered. By that I mean he will be impeached or tarred in the House. Of course, his conviction, or rather feathering in the Senate, will be a different matter. Right now, the possibility of a successful senatorial feathering is up for grabs. I'd put his odds of surviving at around 60-40. But with sober and deliberate Adam starring as the lead prosecutor in the Senate trial to follow, and Nancy pulling strings in the background, things could get really, really dicey for the brat boy really, really fast. So here's my prediction, and take it for what it's worth, which is nothing. Expect to see the truth laid bare. Expect to see witnesses and corroborators followed by collaborators. Expect to see Rudy G and his pair of Ukrainian goofballs twist in the wind. Expect to see Billy Barr wish he was Billy Budd. And by the way, if you don't know, Billy Budd was the lead character in a Herman Melville novel. He was an American seaman impressed into service on a British warship where he was falsely accused of mutiny, and for his disobedience, he was hung. Check out the movie directed by Peter Ustinov. Really good. Damn, I got sidetracked again. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, the Senate impeachment trial. Folks, get ready, get some popcorn, and be ready to watch. If the brat boy's ship gets too low in the water, and I know I'm switching metaphors here, but bear with me. If his ship starts listing and the compartments start filling, by that I mean his approval rating takes another deep dip, expect to see the rats with the big R, by that I mean Republican senators jumping ship. For the first ones off the ship, there may be some room on the lifeboats, but for Lindsay and Mitch and the rest of the cultists, think Jonestown. Damn, I'm switching metaphors again. Oh well. If those boys wait too long, they might as well just go to the captain's quarters and share a refreshing glass of Kool-Aid and cyanide with the brat boy, because the lifeboats will be gone, and the ship will be sinking, and the rats will be swimming. And finally, and fittingly, like the climax to some Greek tragedy, expect to see a deep state deadbeat, otherwise known as a civil servant, administer the final and killing blow. By that I mean the coup de grace. Now, before I go there, I wanted to take another small detour and talk about civil servants, who they are and where they came from. You see, back in the battle days of the last century, the century before the last, meaning the 19th century, the whole of our government operated on what was then known as the spoil system. Meaning, if you wanted a federal gig like local postmaster or customs officer, or even, let's say, a janitor in the War Department, you had better have your pockets filled with lots of quids, pros, and quos. By that I mean you better be able to horse trade. You had to pay for those gigs with money or favors or future promises, or you better know somebody and know them really well. As a result, the whole of our federal government back in those days was filled with ass-kissers, party hacks, family members, and loyalists. It was a cesspool of corruption. Back in the bad old days, there was no such thing as a career in government. When your guy was in, you were in. And when he was out, you were out. All of this went on unimpeded until President Chester A. Arthur, who himself at one time was a customs officer and perhaps the least known of all American presidents, signed the Pendleton Civil Service Act of 1883 into law. From then on, most jobs in the Fed, below like cabinet level and assistant secretaries, required an entrance examination. Those gigs from postmaster to customs officer to janitor that were previously handed out on the basis of Quids, Pros, and Quos were subsequently handed out now based on something new. So the Civil Service Act of 1883 provided the first real firewall to the sea of corruption that had infested our fledgling federal government from its inception. So where was I? Oh yeah, those civil servants and Greek tragedy. Yes, so finally and fittingly, like a climax to a Greek tragedy, expect to see a deep state deadbeat. You know, one of those hardworking invisibles who have toiled in bureaucratic obscurity their whole frigging lives. Expect to see one of their invisible ilk step out of the Greek chorus and be the matador. And here comes another metaphor. And then watch as this matador in pinstripes points the glistening steel espada between the withers and thrusts. And then watch as the bull's eyes go wide in a curious kind of disbelief. Observe as the bull's knees buckle. And then finally remember for history and for all time. Remember as the bull's heaving bulk tumbles to the turf, and with his hooves pointing skyward like a dead insect, the bull snorts out one last lung of blood, and then, in the stillness of the cruel afternoon sun, lies there inert and dead for all time. Of course, I could be wrong, and I usually am, but metaphorically speaking at least, in a mixed-up sort of way, you never know. 'Cause it ain't over till it's over, and it ain't over till the fat lady sings. So there you have it, folks. My rant for the week, my little prayer of a podcast. Till next time, adios, goodbye, and adieu. Or wait, let's do it this way. Till next time, namaste, shalom, and aloha. By that I mean, nama shaloha.